You are the bell within a bell that tolls to tell life's essence, and without a sound, over any distance, breaks the spell of silence.
Welcome, cometh the style of blessed. Jeg heiti Maxine Gaudio, en jeg kutleth Max. Jeg heima I Reykjavik, og jeg elsker Island. Jeg elsker Island. Jeg lære islandsku. Það mjög erfitt. I think it's how you get so brilliant here. As little children, you have to learn this kind of grammar, and it just enhances your whole brain. So I'd like to stick with you, and I'd like you to stick with me, and I'd like you to do it, if you can, just listen through it in English and see Iceland through my eyes, and let me show you how Icelanders are. Each person that you're seeing here, you're seeing a part of yourself, and I think maybe you'll learn more about yourself and the great uniqueness of Iceland and of Icelanders. Many of you may remember me from my book, Journey to the Center of the Self, and maybe you won't, but part of my interview is based on that theory, and I hope and I think you'll enjoy it. So I want to talk about a little bit of a difficult subject today, but something that I feel is really important. It's like I come to Iceland. It's the most beautiful place for me. I look out and I see, I don't know, I just see the water and the sky and the mountains and the colors change. I spend nights just lying there watching the colors of the sky change in the summer. Nothing is ever the same here. It's just some very special, for me, it's a bubble place. I live in a bubble when I'm here. It's like I'm living on fire, and so are you. And the energy, the orca, is very different here than anywhere. And that's probably why everybody feels they have to get out from now to time and again. So I look out the window and I have this beautiful view. And next thing you know, I start to see cranes. And then more cranes. And more cranes. And I realize that all those cranes are buildings. They're going to be buildings, and they're going to block all this beauty. They're going to block the beauty of the mountains, everything. I don't know why. I do know why, but I don't want to talk about it because I'm not a political commentator. I'm just a plain old Bondarican, you know. However it is, I'm considered a foreigner, but you were born here. I chose to come here, and I love it very much here. So I want to talk in some way about the passivity of things, how important it is to think to yourself, am I passive? Not just in the world, not just in your town, but in your home. Am I not speaking up for what I see is not right? Am I not communicating with my wife or my husband or my girlfriend or my boyfriend or my children, my neighbors? We have to extend this, because passivity, all wars and killing, came out of people in countries who never bothered to act before their government took over. And I use it as an example, probably. I would say that not all Germans were Nazis, as a good example. But many of them, you know, enjoyed the return of their German pride. They had been pushed down so badly, and now along comes somebody who says, Deutschland, Deutschland, über alles. We're Germans, we can stand up and we can do things. And this is, you know, a lot of other people looked and said, oh, these Nazis, they're just a bunch of fools. So they just sat back and let it happen. And before they knew it, they were owned. They lost control. Because the people became like sheep. They didn't bother. They just lived their lives. But now I'm talking about fanatics. I'm not talking about some people. I'm talking about the fanatics and what they create in life. So the fact is that the silent majority becomes extraneous. And what do I mean by that, extraneous? I mean, the silent majority begins to lose all power. And there's a difference between power and force. So the government gains the force. People really have the power. but they have the power in spirit and they don't pull it together. So let me say that communist Russia was comprised of Russians who just wanted peace, I'm sure. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. And the government killed over 20 million people. Japan killed 12 million Chinese civilians. We like to focus on these little things. We don't see the bigger thing. And after a while, we don't even pay attention to people being killed. It's immaterial. We're so deadened and dulled by it. So peace-loving Germans, Japanese, Chinese, Russians, Rwandans, another big story, Serbs, Afghans. I was in Afghanistan before anything happened. It was a beautiful place, and people were not wearing burqas. It wasn't like that. It was just a lovely place with lovely people. No more. Iraqis, the Palestinians, the Somalians, Nigerians, the Algerians. I mean, so many others have died, and we pay no attention. We just remain the peaceful majority, and we don't stand up. And in not standing up, we lose. If those people, as an example, I don't know, if those people who were under the tyranny and it left and they survived, those who survived, why didn't they stand up for the next group? As an example, the Jews were incarcerated, to say the least. They were in concentration camps. When they came out, why didn't they stand up for the Cambodians in the killing fields? Why didn't they come together? Then why didn't those two come together for the Afghanistanis? I worked with Afghan children. They were just being killed by the Russians, not totally, just enough. They were pieces of food there, and they would go to pick it up, or a toy, and they were lost a leg or an arm. I brought children here from Afghanistan, not here, but to the United States, who were injured because they had acid thrown in their face. I mean, I say that to you and you go, ooh, but then it's gone. We're all one, and somehow it's important to me and it's important to you to go just a little deeper and think. Think about what I'm saying. Think in your own self about what you're feeling. Try just a little to expand just a little. Stand up. It doesn't mean go out and riot. It doesn't mean get out your guns and fight. It means stand up and stand together. Stand together in your home. Stand together with your neighbors. You know, we look at Herzegovina and Bosnia. Neighbors were killing each other. Think about that. Your next door neighbor, you eat with them, and then what's the next thing? You take up guns and you rape the wives? There's something wrong here. But in Iceland, no. We've not had a war in 1,200 years. We do not at the present time have armed police. So we are in a position to be an example in the world. Not right now, maybe, but we're close to it. So we started as a poor nation. We think getting rich is a way, is the way to go. Moving too fast, perhaps. Worth thinking about. Really worth thinking about. Because it's something to think about in many, many terms. And it's important to think about it in terms of what is really true. So I'm going to end this story with you. If it's getting a little too heavy, I understand, because it's a heavy situation. But Margaret Mead, who was an anthropologist, said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, is the only thing that it ever has. It's the only way that it ever has happened. It needs to be that small group come together and make a difference." So now I'm going to introduce to you a really, really interesting and wonderful person. Another one of you, another Icelander. I say, we're lucky we have him. Tolli. Tolli is today my guest. I'm going to ask you a little bit of a strange question, Tolli. Who were you more like, your mother or your father? Or who were you brought up by?
I think it's mixed of both.
Of course.
Of course, but my mother was the dominant person in the family.
Are you more like her?
Yeah, I am.
Would you say, would it be true to say that your father was emotionally unavailable to you?
In a way, in a way.
It could be,
My father was, he was a wonderful person and very connected to nature, and he was very connected to his emotional identity. But he had this problem of being alcoholic,
It's a big problem.
It's a big problem.
Do you
it's
think
a big
that
problem for everyone, for
do you
the
think
whole
that
family.
it's a big problem because they're trying, in some way, to kill the pain? I simplified.
Yeah, a little bit, I'm alcoholic too,
Okay,
So,
I don't know.
Yeah, an addict too, So, so the reason can be many, The reason can be that people are healing their pain with drugs and stuff like that. But some people go into drugs and stuff like that, coming from a perfect home and
Yes,
security, So, but that was the situation. My father has had a dysfunctional possession, and my mother was the one who had to be the rock, and that also make her dysfunctional. So
Yes.
the whole situation had a harmony of dysfunctional atmosphere.
Beautifully put.
Yeah, in a way. I mean, I am describing here, a structure that is dysfunctional, but the reality of my childhood and so had many beautiful effects.
Of course it did.
Many beautiful relationships with my father, with my mother, with my brothers, and so on.
But he was still unemotionally available. So when you began your life as a teenager, whenever you began with women, did you pick some people that were like your father in some way? Initially, not so.
Might be. I am not gone so far. But anyhow, when I come to be a teenager, I was lost. I was very lost, emotional lost, and I really didn't understand what life asked for me to be. So I went the same way as my father. I got support from alcohol, and that was supposed to solve all my problems, especially emotional problems.
Particularly.
Yeah, exactly.
Above all things.
And then the journey started. I was trying to find my higher power and support in life through drugs and alcohol more than less. But of course, I'm not constantly drunk or constantly stoned or things like that. But the whole life is, related to this all the time.
Don't you think in some way that everybody is addicted, even if it's to work or a positive thing, it's some kind of addiction to remove themselves?
I heard from my teacher a few weeks ago that he said, we are all addicted just by thinking. Because thinking is always in the track of habit.
Yes.
So we are stuck in one kind of habit or another that fixes us,
For me, I say that if you keep your mind busy, you can't hear the broadcast. If you keep the static going, you don't get the true broadcast. So what brought you then to the idea of painting?
This is a natural gift, I did this as a child, I did it as a teenage, but then I dropped it all. I had an attitude to myself that you shall not do this, don't paint. I throw all my works from, I had 100 of paintings and drawings that I all throw away when I was about 16 years old. And then I started my life, I was dropped out in school and was rambling around as a sailor or working in fish factories or a lumberjack up in Norway or whatever. And then the time came, I had to find some solution to get into the society again, into the heat. I was out in the cold, and I knew I could paint, I knew I could draw, so I went to the art university and made to get in there,
So what did you learn from being lost, and what did you learn from being in all these places and doing all these other things before you came to it?
Well, what I learned there was I had to trust myself. however I felt, you know, good or bad, you have to trust yourself. You have to stand on your own. And that was a good lesson. It was a good lesson and a good thing to carry on in the life. But it didn't heal my emotional wound,
No.
you know. That came later on.
Very well put.
But I survived. I learned to be a streetwise survivor.
So could you say then that all of these experiences put together, we can't judge them and shouldn't judge them.
No.
They were there and they made up part of you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely agreed. This is what I say, what we say in the sweat loads. You know, I practice sweat loads.
Okay.
We borrow that beautiful thing from the Native American and
Yes.
mix it up with this, mix it up with that,
Yes.
and then we work with ourselves in that. And one of the things that we carry on there is that we should honor our forefathers, we should honor our father and mother, and think about it that they did their best to make us happy with the tool and things they had. Whatsoever we might think about it, they try their best.
They did their best based on what they came from.
Absolutely.
And then that from what they came
Yeah.
from. So somebody has to
Yeah.
break, and you
Yeah.
have apparently.
Yeah.
Someone needs to break that cycle.
Yeah.
Otherwise it continues.
Yeah, absolutely. That is what I was thinking about when you were talking about stand up. Like you say, we don't stand up to make a riot on the street. Stand up for your own happiness.
Yes.
That is really the big revolution.
Yes, because oh, beautiful, you're so beautiful. You're just so beautiful. The moment that you stand up for your own revolution and you really come and make your change within yourself, I think you stand up for everybody.
Yeah.
This is a frequency which I've talked about before, and this frequency goes out in the family, it goes out in the neighborhood. You're firmly connected.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love it. I'd like to go on and on.
And you know, you have seen it work, I have seen it work.
Yes.
We know it work.
Yes. I know it works because I live my life like that. And you live yours like that. But it takes a lot of work to do it. Once you get on it and you understand it and you understand that path of self-worth and self-esteem, things change. But once they change, you have to continue. I think everybody should do the 12 steps.
Yeah, yeah,
They need to make an assessment in some way of themselves.
yeah. Because the nature of the 12 step is you have to do it. It is not
That's right.
ideology that you talk about,
That's
think
right.
about, know about.
Right.
You have to do it. And that is I think the key for happiness for everybody is that you have to do something.
You have to keep your word and be your word.
Yeah.
But mostly you have to be your word to yourself.
Yeah.
It's not just I promise you I'll be my word to you. No, you have to be your word to yourself. So tell me this, as you began to paint and you went back to painting, what did you feel when you painted? Could you say that this was in some way a release of the emotions that were not expressible otherwise?
I was very, very lucky and very happy to go into this because it was really a lifeline for me. I took it as a lifeline, but I was very angry. I was a very angry person, you know, and the art stuff I was making in the beginning, you know, was with a lot of attitude to the society, to myself, to others. Dark colors and, you know, strong
I remember
brushstrokes.
some of your work, probably from 2006, because I came to your studio then. And now I look at your art and it's like, it's so alive, it's so different. So I see the difference in you by watching your art.
That's the truth, because when I look backward to what I have been doing, I see a diary. I see
that's beautiful.
you know, I see it's not a question of good or bad art. It's more like that when I look back, that I have been honest, because I can see how I have felt during the time I have been painting. You know?
Yes.
And this is a thing that you can't see at the moment you're doing it, but later on you can see I was pretty honest.
Very honest. It was you. So your art was an expression of where you were at the time. But did you feel a release of those emotions? When I first met you, I think in the other studio, I think you had just come from hiking. You had been doing a lot of hiking then. And I looked, I was with Jan, and I thought, interesting man, interesting art. And I thought, but it's so heavy. It's just so much of it is so heavy. And then I saw it change. And now it's like, it's fantastic who you've become.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm just honored to talk to you, really. It makes me a little bit emotional. So, when you change to this kind of painting, it's still the same as the other. What do you feel while you're doing it? Where does it come from? Because I don't believe it comes from you, really.
I don't know where it comes from. It's more like that I am opening a window for myself.
Yes.
I'm going somewhere.
Yes.
And I follow the painting from one painting to another. This painting tells me a little bit about the next painting I'm doing. So I'm just,
So in some way you're led.
Yeah, so
in some way you are led.
Yeah.
In some way,
exactly.
Your mind is clear. You're getting the broadcast, and it's coming out.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think, and do you feel as though you're, I suppose as you've said to me, we're all in the zone, and we're always in the zone, but I'm talking about this place that you feel when you're addicted to drugs or alcohol or whatever, and you get high. Is that not the feeling you get when that's flowing through you and it's coming out?
Well, the feeling that is guiding me now is, we might call it love and compassion.
Yes.
And this is what I have been learned on the way healing myself. I have learned you have to give it on, you have to pass it on, you have to give it on. All that I learned to heal myself, it only works if you give it on, if you pass it on. And in that process, I start to grow. I start to get less and less I.
Yes.
More and more we.
Yes.
And it gives me more and more happiness.
Yes.
So let's move on.
So would I be right in then in saying that it's very important for people to not be so ego-centered and to think more about what's happening on the outside, to be aware. Where's the paint can? Where's the this? Where's the thing? Where was the chair? And what is happening with that other person? Always aware of what's happening with the other people and what they need, and can I supply it without ever thinking. Just letting that flow. Would you say?
Yeah, I would say that. That's true.
Yeah, I think so.
So true. Yeah.
So how would you tell people to begin this process?
Well,
because it doesn't matter what level you're at.
The best way that I have learned for everybody is mindfulness meditation or a meditation. Meditation, bring yourself to yourself, and you learn to accept yourself as you are. And when you learn to bring yourself a self-compassion, then you are able to bring compassion to others.
To others, right.
So whoever you are, wherever you are, old or young, start meditating.
So, oh yes, thank you. Thank you for that. The thing is that in some way, not in some way, absolutely, when you begin your meditation, there's no thinking really involved. It's about meditating, and it's about going into the unified field and dipping into that and coming out, and dipping in and coming out. And this then begins to talk about life as illusion, which we can't do because it just goes too far for some people's thinking at this time. But I think that for me to talk to you is a pleasure, because it's like I'm talking to myself, so I'm thrilled with that. And I see, to me, when I look at these paintings, this is like I'm going out into the universe somewhere. It's like an explosion, and I'm going out. So there's explosion and explosion. I suppose we could say that we have volcanoes because this is the suppressed emotion of the people in this country.
Yeah.
It's making it maybe a little too simple.
You know, in the art stuff,
Mm-hmm.
thing can be very dramatic and heavy, and you know, and when you are illustrating, you know, feelings and yeah, visions, then things can can get pretty colorful and so on. But the meditation, the mindfulness meditation, is all about the common sense in a daily life, in the reality you are in now. It is all about to accept, to wake up now, accept things as they are now.
Say it right then. To wake up and be here now.
Be here now. It sounds very simple.
That's right. It sounds very simple, but the moment you stop the conscious thinking, why did I living in the past, looking at the future, and keep this busyness, you lose this moment. So in some way, to me, it's like, do I want to eat what I ate yesterday? And do I have to plan my meals for tomorrow? What am I doing about the meal that's in front of me now? Missing it?
What's the point?
Right. So we agree. So simple. It's too bad I can't just sit with you all day long. I think you should make time. Maybe not now, but it's been wonderful, really, for me to do this, because I believe as you believe, I write as you believe, and I live in that way. And for me, it's taken a long time. It's taken a lifetime of doing it. And it's not over. So at any rate, I'd like to say thank you for joining us. I hope you find it interesting. Tolli with his greatness is the same as you with your greatness. It doesn't matter. You need to look at everybody in some sense as though it's you. So we talked to Tolli, so we talked to a woman who runs a little glass store and starts a cafe, so we talked to a man who's cleaning the street. It doesn't matter. You are not what you do. You are who you are. And it's really so necessary to start to know, who am I, and accept yourself. Because there is no bad or there's no good. There just is. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you'll join me again. If you have any questions, please come to www.maxinegaudio.com or see me on Facebook. I've enjoyed it. I hope you have. Shamst i nice to Vico.